Okay, so we're gonna do some more geometric forms using the 1-point perspective. I don't want them to be, and I'm gonna show you, we're gonna kind of round them off so we have a little bit more organic form and something a little different than when we just did the very squared off edges of the 1-point perspective. So once again, we're focusing on form. Last week we did organic form. This week we're going to work on geometric form and more advanced organic form. Okay, so I did my horizon line and my vanishing point. And I'm just gonna start off with just a normal box. And remember, with 1-point perspective, we always draw the face of the shape first. 2-point perspective is the corner of the shapes. And right now I'm using my H pencil because it's easier to erase. And then I'll go back like we did the last time and I'll use my 2B pencil. And remember, use your rulers anytime you can, anytime you have straight lines. You need to be using your rulers. And make sure, once again, that this line and this line are parallel, this line and this line are parallel. Check yourself when you're done, because this line sometimes tends to, instead of being parallel, it starts to slant up. So we have a basic square here. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to round off a couple of the edges. So I'm gonna round off this edge and I'm gonna do the same thing up at the top. So now I'm gonna use my ruler all the way up until I can't use it anymore. And I have to make the curve on by myself. Then I'm gonna definitely go back and get my ruler and make another straight line. If you do these really nicely and clean, they'll be a really good thing for your portfolio, especially those of you who are doing graphic design. So now I have my new box. And obviously we have this line here, and we don't need that anymore. You can leave it and shade over it later, but I'm just going to erase it to show that we don't need it. We don't need that anymore. You could leave them in there, you don't need to go through and erase them. But now we have a rounded edge as opposed to a really squared hard edge. And obviously our value is going to work differently when we go to put value in than it's going to work here. And then this value and this value are going to affect each other differently. And we'll talk about that when we get to values. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a rectangle, a tall rectangle. Okay, so I have my tall rectangle here, and I'm going to block these off. So now it's a tall, slender rectangle. So I have this. So my next thing is I'm going to round these edges off down here. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did with the box over here. But now what's different is this line is going to shorten completely because we rounded it off a little bit. So now I have this box right here. Well, now I want to kind of add some more boxes. And I kind of like to do one box at a time because you can see sometimes our lines change and they kind of shorten because when we round these corners. But now I want to add a triangle to this side of this box. And I want it flush up against this box and I want it flush against the ground. So I'm going to put it right there to the corner. And once again, I drew the face, the complete face of the shape first. So now I have a big triangle. Now I'm going to probably round the top of this triangle off. And maybe I'll round the bottom off here. So now I'm just going to outline it so you can see what's happened. And I'm using my ruler, like I said, as much as I possibly can. Okay, and you don't have to erase where these are. In fact, probably leave them and then I can kind of see how you get to where you got to. So I'm gonna make, I think I'm gonna make a more complex shape up here. So I have my shape. I'm gonna make it three-dimensional, and I'm gonna go from all of these corners. And I don't need to go from any of these back here because they would be behind the shape. So now I'm gonna make this shape, these lines all parallel with the lines next to them. And now I have a three-dimensional little shape. Okay, so I kind of want to round this off. We're just practicing doing little round shapes. So I'm going to round this part off right here. I'm going to round this off right here. I'm going to round off the center of it. And then I think that's all I'm going to do. And with perspective, it's definitely better to keep your pencils really sharp. I don't know if anybody's going into architecture, but I mean, they have a lot of it on the computers now, but they have to have super sharp pencils. So, and I would say these are pretty simple. We'll do one more exercise where we make things a little more complex. Okay, so I have 3 shapes here, and I'm gonna do, oops, I forgot to outline this over here. And the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna do one more over here, and I'm gonna do a box again. Actually, I want to make it a little shorter so you can see the bottom of it. Okay, so I'm just going to make a normal box again. But this time I'm going to do a cutout in the middle. So I'm going to do a cutout and then one over here. Okay, so now I have a cutout, but that's created a line right here, so we need to make that to the vanishing point. Then we have one here we need to go over. So now we have that, and we don't need this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to round some of my edges. Do I want to round those? Yeah. Okay, so I kind of rounded all the edges. Some of these aren't going to be as noticeable. And I'm just putting that there so you can kind of see, but that won't really be there in the value. This would be shaded, but since there's such a big gap, we're going to put that there. And then this one too, it's going to kind of be a little different when it's shaded, but I'm going to put it in there just so you can see. But I'm going to stop it kind of midway, just like I did this one. So that's just going to indicate that part of this is going to be a round edge because of this. And so we're going to leave that way. So now we have this. We can erase these. We want. And so this is just kind of to show how we can start off with really geometric shapes and slowly I mean, we could get really in depth and keep going and keep going. But that's just one way that we can get to some different spots. So geometric with a little bit of curve. And these are pretty simple, and I'm going to do one more where we kind of add a few more shapes to them. But that's it for this video.